Welcome to Chautauqua People. I'm John V. My guest today is Donna Dolson. Donna grew up in Staten Island, New York, graduated from the School of Performing Arts, now titled LaGuardia High School, did her undergraduate work at Boston University, and earned her master's at Manhattan School of Music. She participated in the Tanglewood Summer Music Program, studied music in Oslo, Norway, and lived in Guadalajara, Mexico for a year each. She played with the New York City Opera and served as an extra in the symphonies of both Buffalo and Pittsburgh, with whom she completed 3 world tours. Donna spent 18 years in Osaka, Japan, her first summer with the Chautauqua Symphony Orchestra, where she serves in the horn section, was in 1984. She teaches at Fredonia and lives locally year-round. Welcome to Chautauqua People, Donna.
Thank you very much.
How did you make your way to Chautauqua?
I was playing a Broadway show. Thank you for having me. I was playing a Broadway show in New York City called On Your Toes. It was a 1920s Rodgers and Hart musical, wonderful stuff. And it closed. And a friend that I'd met on the City Opera tours, Mary Whitaker, who was a violinist in the orchestra, said, they're having auditions for Chautauqua. You should take this audition. You'll be here in New York in 2 weeks. And I thought, Chautauqua? I never heard of Chautauqua. I'm not going to do it. But she kept saying, you should really check it out. It's good. So I took the audition and I won the position, and I knew it was upstate, but if this is New York, I'm from here, and this was upstate to me. So I had no idea that New York went all the way out here. So I got in my car and I started driving and driving and driving and driving and driving, and I finally made my way here. And that's how I got the job here, and I completely fell in love with the place.
And been here ever since.
And have come every summer, yes.
Now let's go to the big picture here. Tell me about you're in the horn section at the CSO, and what are your responsibilities at Fredonia?
At which question first? Fredonia?
Let's do the symphony and then we'll do Fredonia.
So at the symphony, during the season, during a regular season, we perform 3 different concerts a week, 3 different programs, usually on 1 rehearsal each, which is very quick paced. So everybody has to be really on their toes to be in this orchestra here. We have a fantastic horn section, and several of us have been here since 1984. It's the kind of job here that once you get it, you hang on to it, because the orchestra is excellent, the conductor is wonderful, and see where we get to be. So we play 3 different programs, orchestra programs, and then the opera and the ballet as well. And we teach also and coach chamber music. And Fredonia, I conduct the Wind Symphony, and I teach beginning conducting, and I run the brass choir and organize the brass chamber music program over there. And it's wonderful.
And that's presumably a rewarding experience for you.
Yes, I'm having a great time. It's a great fit. It's just wonderful.
Now, this was a very difficult year in education in the country. Tell me how things changed for you and your students at Fredonia when COVID struck this spring.
We were preparing our big concert for March 12th was our first concert of the spring semester. And we were playing An American in Paris. Big piece. We had rehearsed it for weeks. Everybody was very excited to play it. And one of the kids looked up and said, Miss Dolson, they're closing the schools in 2 days. And I couldn't even believe it, because when we're in that scene of getting ready to perform something, musicians get into a kind of a focus, a tunnel vision. And they shut everything down. And fortunately, we had just performed that concert, and the conducting classes were done on Zoom, and they worked as well as they could. The good part was I was able to have individual time with people. And instead of what we do in the conducting class, unique to Fredonia, I think, is everyone in the class plays an instrument, and we have a little orchestra or a band. And the students get up and conduct that band of their peers. And it's a tremendous learning experience. But we could no longer do that because everybody was home. So we had to conduct to either singing the parts or to a recording, which has its benefits and merits, but it's not like the real thing, giving a cue over there and looking at that guy, pay attention. It worked pretty well, I think. The chamber music, we were just about to do our final concert when the schools closed. So everybody was prepared and ready to go, and then nobody could perform anywhere. The same with the brass choir. So it's really kind of halted everything in the water. For applied teachers, if one-on-one lessons, I think you can do that on Zoom and have a lot of success. So.
But for the bigger things, such as conducting a group.
Yeah, it's tough. It's very tough.
Very tough.
But we're shifting gears and we're focusing on other parts of learning, how to practice. How to practice is a big thing. How to study a score, how to study a part, how to learn the part if something's very technically difficult. So now we're going to walk through that. I'm now preparing something for myself on the horn, the Chautauqua Horn Quartet. Many of the members are here for the summer. We will be performing on August 18th, live from Chautauqua. There will be no audience, but it will be a live concert. And we're playing a bunch of very difficult music by John Williams. And the horn licks are really hard, and they go like that, and I have to practice it like this, in order to be able to get it up to that tempo. So this is the kind of stuff that I will impart on my students, how to tackle something technically difficult slowly.
I would like to sneak in the back room, be a fly on the wall, and hear that one live.
You can watch it online. It'll be live. It'll be live.
Live online. It's like fresh frozen. and that, go for there. Now, what is planned for this fall at Fredonia?
At Fredonia, we're all scrambling. We're coming up with some content that will be the best for the students who we don't know whether or not everyone will be on campus. The plan is yes. Right now, absolutely we'll all be there. We have to have all these contingency plans. Hybrid, will it be a little bit hybrid? Will it be in person? We're waiting, I think, a couple of more weeks. The governor will make an announcement. So the students want to come back desperately. We want to see them. This is where we're at.
And so we're just hopeful that we can
Yes,
get that thing going.
yes.
Now let's switch gears a little bit. Up at Fredonia, you've played in numerous different settings around the world. We talked this morning, and I just was dumbfounded when I listed them all on paper. What's your favorite performance venue?
That's like asking who's your favorite composer or who's
We'll get
your...
to that one. Okay.
I was so lucky last October to tour Europe with the Pittsburgh Symphony, and I got to play in the Musikverein in Vienna. And that's where Wagner and Brahms and everybody was writing their music to perform there. And that felt like a hallowed space. But everywhere I play, the amphitheater is terrific. You know, Heinz Hall is wonderful down in Pittsburgh. The halls in Japan, whew, they have some magnificent concert halls, beautiful spaces. And in Japan, something I had never seen, it may exist in this country, but I'd never seen it before. They'll say, oh, the hall's here, go there, there's a hall, and you go there, and there's a big office building. Where's the hall? Oh, you take the elevator to the 15th floor. And you take the elevator to the 15th floor, and then it's like 10 floors of a concert hall in a regular office building.
The top it.
Yeah. So I also got to play in Hamburg. It's
That's the new concert hall there.
the new concert hall.
Tell me about that.
I was so excited.
I've seen pictures and I want to go.
Yeah, it's stunning because I grew up on Staten Island and I lived for a period of time when I was going to graduate school in a 2-story house overlooking the harbor. I had top 2 floors of house, had this magnificent view. And I love harbors. I just love them. They're the industrial part of it. And Hamburg is an industrial harbor with all of the shipping lanes going by, but this concert hall there. And what a great idea. Whoever had that, what a vision. And I fell in love with the city because of the hall.
And it's not a real symmetrical sort of hall. I only seen film of it. It looks like it's sort of asymmetrical.
Yes, it is. That's new. That's the au courant right now. The Berlin Philharmonie is the same kind of hall where it's all around. Instead of being more like a box theater, it's more like that. Yeah.
I've shot video at the old concert house, very symmetrical, probably 100 years old in Berlin,
Yes. Oh.
and on the front there. And fun place, but I've not been in the new facility. Now, so you like these places, you clearly have a world perspective. Let's go one step further. And you performed in different venues. What's your favorite type of music to perform?
Anything with French horns, you know. On the Pittsburgh tour, we performed Bruckner's Ninth Symphony. That is long, and it's a challenge. But once you get into it, it's something unbelievable. And the French horn writing, of course, and I got to play something called the Wagner tuba. Do you know what a Wagner tuba is?
No, I don't. Tell me.
A Wagner tuba, when Wagner was writing his operas, and he wanted more noise than he could possibly get from the French horns, he thought, I'm going to make this instrument that will come out above the whole orchestra. So you use a French horn mouthpiece, and it's kind of pitched the same, but it goes up and out almost like a euphonium. So the bell goes up and out like this. And when I first laid my hands on one as a student, my teacher said, the object of these instruments is to sound like a warthog and rut. Because it sounds like hell. It's just meant to come over the orchestra, but it's also very mournful. So I got to play that. Bruckner uses those.
Now,
So
is that also an E-flat instrument?
no, it's an F and B flat.
Okay.
So, I love playing John Williams stuff. I love opera. Because I did the opera tours, I discovered opera, that it's got the orchestra music, which is sensational, and you've got the singers who are very well trained and have so much discipline. And then you put acting and dancing into it. It's my favorite, maybe.
Is that a hard one to rehearse with so many different things going on?
You have to have a really good conductor. It just keeps everything organized. You know, it's like a Broadway show. Everything's just got to click. Yeah.
So it's a different item. Let's switch gears a little bigger here. And a major issue which we talked about earlier. Tell me how the coronavirus has affected the performing arts Broadway.
In Broadway?
No, the
Oh,
broad
broadly.
brush.
Yeah. Well, we're all worried. We're all very worried because you see online people, orchestras, groups doing Zoom things, very clever performances, and they're terrific. But it doesn't have that feeling that you get when you breathe with somebody next to you and you play a phrase and you finish a phrase and then something goes extremely well, and the feeling that you get. Do you know Mother Goose Suite by Ravel? Are you familiar with that?
Mhm.
I didn't know it. It was one of the first pieces we played in Japan when I got there. And I'm switching gears, sorry.
Go for it.
The conductor had never made any kind of a face. And the music was beautiful. It's Ravel. And the last movement is called The Children's Garden. And we got to the last movement. We'd rehearsed it a couple of times, and I thought it was pretty. I was mostly focused on all the technical thing, breathing, how to make it sound smooth, lyrical, how to play with my compadres in the orchestra, listening to play in tune. These are all things that musicians just do instinctively. In the performance, because I had already prepared everything in the rehearsals that I knew that I need to do, so I was more kind of on automatic pilot, when we got to the last movement, it struck me how beautiful it was. And I was all choking up about how beautiful it was, and I looked up at the conductor and he had tears coming down his face. This is what music can do for people. So when you're in a live situation with fellow musicians, when you're lucky, this happens a lot. You know?
Yeah, I shared with you, we had a student who was in tears in Leipzig at the choral music.
Yeah, yes.
Almost the entirety of it.
Yes, it's...
Never heard anything like that. So that's it. Now, can we go back to talk a little more about, because this is a significant item for viewers from the outside. Let me go just a step further and push here. It's my understanding most performing musicians get paid by the performance. And so if there's no performance, then there's no pay. And indeed, the people who do the production would say, we don't have any revenue from people buying tickets, therefore we don't have any money to pay you. But there's also a matter of continuing health insurance with big organizations like that. Carry me a couple steps further here.
Well, if you people on Broadway, playing Broadway shows, once everything stopped for them. Lots of orchestras are able to maintain, not lots, I take that back. Some orchestras are able to maintain some kind of salary and health insurance so far for their orchestras. Some of them have just gone bye-bye. Indianapolis Symphony, we're all heartbroken. They just said, no, we'll see you next year. So people have families and mortgages. This is a tough scene for them. Ballet dancers, theater people, this is tough.
And so it's much like for somebody who works in retail or some other trades, we're not doing anything, no hours. You may have had benefits from this company, but not.
Right, right.
So it's catastrophic for them.
That's the right word. That is the right word.
Okay, so we had a tough question there. Here's an easier one for you, more fun. Tell me about a brass instrument, and question which I gave to Amanda, I'll give it to you. You had a stroke of luck. You have won the lottery big time, huge time. You're filthy rich. You get to go buy a new French horn, or horn, if you will. How would you go about it?
Oh, I know exactly the horn I want, but it's not like a violin. The most expensive horn that I think it's around maybe $20,000, but violins, of course, are
6-7 figures.
the violin bows. A $20,000 bow that's a good bow. It's not a great bow, yeah. Yeah. There are very fine horn makers now, handmade horns in this country and all over the world, actually. Yeah.
Now, if one of the Fredonia students came to you and said, I've used a renter or some other one, wanted some guidance to go out and buy a horn or some other brass instrument, what would be the decision process you took that student through?
Well, this is how I would do it. I would start reaching out to people and ask their opinions and see what instruments are available. It is a small world. You know, there are horn sites all over the place where you can go and shop. Depending on what the student has in mind for a career.
It's going to be a brass player for a career.
Yeah, there's very fine instruments, but for a student they're expensive. So I wish I could be more helpful than that. I really haven't got an answer.
Are there any firms Western New York that are noteworthy that you would go to?
Crino Music in Fredonia, they've helped me out in a pinch. I had the Wagner tuba and they fixed something for me over there. I just walked in off the street and they were able to just fix it immediately for me. When I have work done on my instrument, I generally do it in Pittsburgh or Cleveland because I've tried to fix the horn myself and I realize that's not my calling.
Yeah. I remember in Rochester, there were a couple of places around Eastman School.
Yeah.
I had some friends who were students there who said, this is a good place to go, or then to New York City.
Yes.
But indeed, very sure level, they backed off and said, I can't do that.
Yes.
Now, another question, taking care of your horn. What are the rules for the care and feeding of a professional level French horn?
For the French horn or for the player?
For the French horn.
For the French horn,
We'll get to the player.
You just have to empty the water out and put grease on the slides and oil the rotors. It's really. I had gotten a very expensive German instrument when I was a student in New York and took out my first loan to buy this. And I walked into Norton Hall, and I had no idea how heavy the doors were. So I opened the door and walked through, and the very heavy door slammed on the bell, and I was sick. I was sick to my stomach. I was young then. Now I realize you just bang it out with a. We went all over people. We found someone we got him off his boat, and he had a mallet, and he just went bangity, 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 bang, 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 bang. We fixed it. So it's not like a wooden instrument. A string instrument's a different. Brass instrument's a little more rough and tumble,
And I've had wood instruments playing friends, and you ask them about leaving the instrument on the trunk of their car during a February day in Fredonia, and indeed, it's like a deer caught in the headlights because of that fragility of that wood.
Did you say they left the instrument?
No, ask them about that. Well, why don't you leave it in the
Yes.
trunk?
No.
And I know I'm messing with them.
Yes.
What's all this busy?
Oh, no, oboe players. Oh, oboe players. On a cool day, they'll be hugging their instruments. Yeah. No, that's different. No, brass is different.
Okay. And I left mine in the trunk of the car. Didn't but it was not the quality of what you were playing for. Okay, so what are the rules for taking care of the player?
It's just like anything else. Take care of yourself. Eat well, exercise, practice. You know.
And how many hours a day should a good player practice? Student status. Brass major at Fredonia, what do you say?
2 hours would be super. 2 hours would be great, but you can't do 2 hours. You can't say I'm going to practice from 3 until 5. You have to do 15 minutes, take a break. 20 minutes, take a break. Half an hour, take a break. All the breaks are very important because you're developing all these muscles. You don't want to overstrain them. So it's just like anything else. Just take care of yourself. You know, and prepare. Always be prepared.
I didn't realize about the muscle development. That's a new one to me. That's a key
yeah,
one.
they're little. They're all.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's a couple of questions that are significant. And let's say a young Chautauquan comes to you seeking advice, and after expressing an interest in a career playing a brass instrument, what would be your counsel?
Find a good teacher. Find out first if it's something that they can't live without. Is it something that they love? Because my teachers always told me, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And it sounded simple at that age. You thought, how can they mean that? But if you love it, when you get a paycheck, it's like, oh, what a surprise. I know that's simplistic. And there are days when, especially in Japan, working their schedules, there were days I just didn't really feel like doing it, or I was tired, but that's where the professionalism comes in. How much do you want it? How far are you willing to go for it? I have wanderlust. I love to go places. So for me, there was no doubt that if I had an opportunity, I'd jump at it and find out what happens. You know, just try it. Resilience. French horn is unforgiving. You go to a concert and very seldom do you hear somebody say, the French horn sounded so good tonight. But you will often hear, oh, the French horn player missed a note. Because it happens. Do you understand the partials of the instruments, why the French horn is one of the challenging instruments to play? Because once you get into the higher register, all the partials, when you're blowing, get very close together. So you're a French horn player. You can play C, D, E, F, G, and A, all with the same open fingering. And if you're going to play the A, you have to hear it in your head and then practice it enough so that you go, but I love it.
Yeah, you could do almost the whole full scale playing with manipulating your hand in different positions.
That's how they started out, of course.
And most folks never realize that.
Yeah.
Now, are there good employment opportunities for these graduates?
Right now,
Let's say if we were a year ago, before the coronavirus.
Well, I had this discussion with a fellow faculty member the other day. My teachers also told me, oh, you'll never get a job. The jobs Broadway's dying, you'll never get a job. And for my personality, that just made me work a little harder and be a little more serious. There will always be opportunities. I think they're evolving now. I think that in the future, it may not be exactly the same as we've known it to be in the past. It may be slightly different. I hope so. Let's put it that way. Orchestras will survive this.
Okay. One that I just sort of thought about, and it's something, tell me about a performance certificate and how that goes. And I understand that's a big item coming out of a major music program.
I don't really have that much experience with that. I know some schools do that. So
Really?
You just go, after you've gotten your degrees, then you go for a performance degree. I'm not so familiar with that, actually. I guess the idea is you go and you just practice and perform rather than taking music history, music theory. You're focusing more on just the performance
Got it.
part of it.
Got it. So that's not a normal Fredonia path then?
I don't think they do. They might do that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah. Okay. We're about out of time. What else do we need to cover?
Well, I would like to say that the way that I started to play the French horn,
Oh, by all means.
what made me fall in love with the French horn, I was in public school 30 on Staten Island, and a brass quintet came, and I was in the 3rd grade. A brass quintet came out on stage, and I couldn't believe it. I saw the French horn, and it was so shiny, and I was hooked. And the easy rapport that these guys had on stage, and they talked to the audience, to the 3rd graders, and they were having fun. It looked like, oh, that's for me. And I'm very grateful that that group came to my school, because I never would have seen a French horn otherwise. So we talked about this earlier. That's one of my super dream missions. You say if you hit lotto, what kind of a French horn would you? I would get groups playing in schools all over the place, all the time, to introduce the instruments, not just brass, strings, saxophones, bassoons, everything.
Have you done much of that in Western New York here?
I haven't done it at all, but I'm working on it.
That's one of those life missions.
That's my mission, yes.
That's great.
Yes.
That's great. We are out of time, and if this was a different day, I would reach across and shake your hand.
Yes.
And
here we are.
say thank you very much.
Thank you.
This has been great fun, and do come back.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you, John.
Great.